Now, I would like to introduce our guests. I'm starting over in this corner with Ms. Gabrielle Kelly. Gabrielle is a screenwriter, producer, and film festival consultant. She has a book coming out this summer about how to develop entertainment materials for the global marketplace. Next is, I'll move out of the way, Ingrid Jean-Baptiste. Ingrid is the founder and director of the Chelsea Film Festival. Chelsea Film Festival Kino in Vino event takes place every second Monday at Bowtie Cinemas in Chelsea. It is a monthly industry networking party where they showcase independent film that was featured at CFF 2015. The film is followed by a cocktail party and after party. The next one is Monday, March 14th at 7 p.m., and you can get your tickets online. Afterwards, again, follow us on StoryForward NYC, sign up for our newsletter, and you'll be able to get all the information. Also, we have it on our Twitter stream, which is at StoryForward NYC. Next is Tara Renee. Tara is the founder and president of the African American Women in Cinema organization. Coming up is the 18th annual African American Women in Cinema Film Festival, taking place March 23rd through the 26th. They are pleased to announce the film and webisode competition. There's a cash prize for the webisode competition and audience awards for the Filmmakers competition. So again, we'll have the information on our newsletter and on our Twitter stream if you would like to submit. And lastly, our lovely moderator this evening is Mr. Jim Germanic. Jim is an award-winning writer, director, and producer. He conducts highly acclaimed and empowering workshops on creative entrepreneurship around the world. He is actually going to be doing one here at Adorama on March 27th on successful film, TV producing, and financing. So that's it for me, and I will let you guys take it away.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Once again, thanks, Jen Begeal and StoryForward for making this possible. We are talking about film festivals, and I think there's two elements of film festivals that are very important. The first one is to filmmakers. The first one is how to get your film in a film festival and how to work a film festival. There's been a proliferation in the last decade of film festivals. I believe there's now something like 8,000 or 9,000. Yeah. Just a decade ago, there was only 1,000. There are 80 horror film festivals in America alone. But I think there's been a proliferation for many reasons. One reason is simply to meet the needs of all the different digital content that's being made. So I want to talk to my two film festival heads first, and I want to ask them, Tara and Ingrid, why did you start your film festival?
You want to go first? Okay. All right. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jen, for putting that together. Thank you for an invitation. How did I start Chelsea Film Festival? I came to New York. I'm from France originally. I came to New York 5 years ago, and I was a journalist in Paris, and I decided to go to the Actors Studio and the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute, which gave me this fabulous training, acting training. And then after my graduation, I had a car accident, which changed everything in my life. And so I worked from home. And one morning, I woke up and I thought to myself, what am I going to do? And I came up with this idea of helping my fellow actors and directors that were in my acting class and that were actually already rising and submitting them films to film festivals. And I thought I would like to help emerging filmmakers. And it came up as this idea that it would be a production company that would help emerging filmmakers. And then after fleshing out all this crazy idea, then later it came more. I talked to my mom, who's my partner today, who's the co-founder of the Chelsea Film Festival, and she said to me, "You're crazy." I said, "No, this is really what I want to do." And then we said, "Okay, we're going to put together a film festival. That's really what you want to do. You want to showcase different stories." And yeah, we opened 2013. So this is really how it came about. Yeah, and very short.
Great. Tara?
Wonderful. I have a long, long story. but I'll make it 30-second version. I got called for an audition. Warner Brothers was shooting a motion picture here in the city, and they were looking for a tall African-American woman for an under 5 role who was not a size 0, so I really felt that once I got there, the part was all mine. And when I got there, I opened the door, saw about 1,000 women looked just like me, and I was floored. So I had an epiphany. I couldn't believe the competition was so fierce, and I said, the advocacy rose up in me. I said, I gotta create jobs. So I started working on a screenplay, and I was encouraged by friends to apply for a grant just to get the film done so I can hire the women. And it just evolved out of one meeting, supposedly a one-time event to attract the resources to make this film happen. And the one-time event was the African American Women in Cinema Day. And when I saw women from all walks of life showed up, and I said, I believe this is my calling. I'm going to go forth in it. And through the success of the first year, 18 years later, it evolved into a film festival. Now, I went to school for veterinary medicine, so I have no idea why I'm even doing this. But anyway, that's my
Well, there are a lot of animals you can meet in this industry. Just real quickly, how would you distinguish your film festivals? And the second question is, what obstacles or struggles have you encountered? It's not easy to make a film festival happen. I know how much time is involved.
Yeah, a lot of time. So to answer your question, a lot of obstacles along the way. First, we've been...
First, just answer, how is your film festival distinctive from other film festivals?
So we promote films from emerging directors. That's all we do. This is really the particularity of the festival, is having films from filmmakers that are doing their first or second film. They're all New York premieres. This is really how we distinguish ourselves, and we're really international. The past film festival had 66 films from 24 different countries. So in New York, it's very rare to find a film festival that has that much of a international content from emerging filmmakers. They're not well known. Most of them it's their first film. So, and to have a New York premiere, it's pretty amazing opportunity for them.
I like how you say premiere. That's really cool. Say it again.
Sorry, my accent is...
No, I love it. We love it. So what obstacles have you encountered on the way? It can't be easy to have a successful film festival, particularly in New York City, which has how many? I don't know, 100 film festivals?
Yeah. So the obstacles are always people trying to compare to other film festivals. So we try to distinguish ourselves, and so the more the content that we receive, we try to narrow down to really what our guidelines are, even though we receive films from professional artists, from really people that could submit elsewhere, and we still refuse them because this is not the platform that we created for. So this is the obstacle for us that is hard, because we want to grow. However, there is content that we receive that we have to refuse because we also are only over a period of a weekend. So we don't. It's not a 2-week long film festival. So the more we grow, the more we can accept content. So this is the main challenge for us.
Tara?
Well, when I saw the women who poured in, and I didn't realize the level of lack that even evolved or was in the industry. Completely naive. Like I said, I was studying veterinary medicine, so and so it really prompted me to really start doing my research, and I start looking at the level of where women of color fared in the unions, the DGA, SAG. Even behind the scenes, editing, lighting, things of that sort, and I just saw how low the numbers. I mean, the numbers were reading like 0.06%, of women getting hired. So the festival is really geared towards providing a platform for a woman of color who have either written or directed or produced. These are the above the line areas where we saw, or I saw in my research, where women did not fare as well, or meaning got the opportunity. Some of the obstacles, now in saying that, what I'm getting ready to say is going to sound like a oxymoron. The obstacles that we face is really getting some work that we could premiere for opening night, even though we provided a platform for women of color. Again, it's very difficult at times, you know, for these women to get these films made, even though now with the new technology, it's a lot better, but it's still a struggle.
It begs the question, and I don't mean to go off topic, but it's a very, right now with the diversity problem at the Oscars, it begs the question, you know, do you think a film festival can help with diversity? And what do you think should be done? Let's say you were the head of a presidential task force. What do you think should be done to give more work to both women and people of color?
Okay. So last year's film festival, Chelsea Film Festival, was focused on women. So the idea also of the film festival I didn't mention earlier, but is to showcase films that are global issues oriented. So when we're talking about global issues, it could be women's issues too. So last year was basically focused on all women. We had panels with women only, but we don't want to become that film festival that is just putting aside also content with men. So we're trying to be gender equality film festival. So last year we had 17 films made by women out of 66. So that's how we're trying to have diversity, if we can call it so, and in the film festival. Yeah.
Tara?
It is very, very interesting what took place with the backlash this year concerning the Oscars. I had the opportunity to judge for the Student Academy Awards. It was a very interesting process. And when the whole media, when they start putting out the story about actually what was happening, what some of the A-listers were saying, I started getting phone calls. And what we started doing was starting to partner up with different types of organizations that wanted more diversity. And they actually came aboard as sponsors for this year's film festival. And so one of the things that we try to encourage in different types of organizations is collaboration. We can do collaborative screenings, collaborative keynote panels, just to discuss the areas of lack and how we could collectively come up with some sort of a solution.
Great, thank you. Gabrielle, I'm not ignoring you. As a producer and writer of amazing films, I just wanted to know, basically, how did you use film festivals in promoting your films and indeed yourself?
Well, actually, I started out working in New York for some amazing filmmakers who don't really need film festivals to help them. One was Sidney Lumet, and I spent a decade or so working here in New York, and then I moved to Hollywood and worked there. But at that, my experience of those festivals was...
Sidney Lumet never went to a film festival?
He did. No, he did go to film festivals, but the point is, these are people where the film festivals want them to come. So I remember going to Taormina with Sydney, you know, in this fantastic Coliseum. And so that experience of film festivals is like pretty great, but I think it's what a lot of people think their experience will be. And, you know, Sydney's not really having to work the festival particularly. He's kind of the guest of honor. So I had an experience of those, maybe what have become like the top tier festivals, seeing what it's like when you go in and you're sort of the guest of honor.
Let's go there for a second, because I
Yes.
think people want to know.
Yeah.
Like it or not, there are basically 3 tiers of film festivals.
Yes.
There is the top tier festivals, which are about 10 or 20.
About 10, I would
And
say.
they attract the top distributors.
Yeah.
In fact, all distributors for the most part. And they attract household name sponsors like American Express, sponsor the Tribeca Film Festival. What would you say are the top tier festivals right now in the world? Because I know
Well, I think there are about 10, and they do kind of change. You know, they change. I'm more than happy to, you know, I have cards here, but just to say anyone can contact me about what those are, because it depends. I mean, there's obviously, you know, Sundance, Berlin, Toronto, Tribeca, Cannes, of course. But I want to say something about, because, you know, different people have different lists of the top 10. But one key thing about the top festivals is what you said, Jim, which is that they also have markets, like not all of them, but a very key thing about why these festivals are in the top 10. And I'm loving hearing so much about your festivals, dying to go to both of them. There are about 9,000 film festivals in the world annually now. But the thing is about this top level, the top tier, is everything about them is about the top level of business. So many of them will have, you know, like Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, and so forth. They're also markets. So you have all the distributors, you have, you know, labs. So you have like the Sundance lab, Toronto has a huge lab, Tribeca does. So you'll find this sort of convergence of many layers of the art and the business of filmmaking. You know, so they're very expensive to go to. They're a very big deal. It's a lot of work. It's a complicated process. It's incredibly competitive. I think Sundance last year had over 10,000 entries. So the competition is huge. And also the programming in those festivals is kind of like, for the programmers, because I've worked in the Sundance lab, I know a lot about the festival. It's kind of juggling the premieres, you know, and it's all about, you know, getting that opening night film and the closing night film and the big name guest. And it's a, you know, it's a kind of tightrope walk and a huge amount of work for people putting it together, because it's very complicated to have all this go on. It's very expensive. It has huge sources of sponsorship, obviously, to pull off something like that. The festivals in the top 10 that are in Europe, less so a festival like Venice, because Europe spends hundreds of millions of euros. I'm Irish and I was educated in England, so Europe, you know, I know a lot about how that goes down there, and they spend so much money. You know, the cities spend enormous amounts of money to keep the festivals there, and they will spend perhaps more on the art side as much as the business, where I think American festivals are much, you know, they often need more corporate sponsorship. This is the reason, by the way, why in Cannes, you know, where in Cannes you have the pavilions of different countries, America's the only pavilion that you have to pay to go into. And then when you get inside, you have to pay for the coffee. I mean, the Guinness in the Irish pavilion is free. Last year when I was in Cannes, the Turkish pavilion had like crates of great beer. The UK pavilion has lots of
Well,
tea
we're also the only country that doesn't do co-productions.
Yes.
You know,
Exactly,
other
yeah.
countries you can get subsidies from the government and do it with
Right.
one or two other countries, and you have
Right.
a co-production.
Yeah. So it's more driven
Let's bring
by
this down from
business.
elitism to a filmmaker, a beginning filmmaker.
Yeah.
Okay, so what advice would you have for a beginning filmmaker to get into one of those top 20 festivals?
Well, I think, I mean, first of all, the strategy, which is what I work with a lot, and I'm working with two such filmmakers at the moment. Actually, neither of them are American, just as it happens, but I think it's sort of like college applications. You know, you want your reach festivals, and then your festivals you feel like these would be great. And then the third tier I wouldn't describe as being like, I'll just accept that. I would say then you're more kind of fine-tuning your festivals to get something else from them. You know, because you know that, you know, one is maybe your hometown and you could have a bigger presence there. But in terms of getting into the top festivals, I mean, you'll be thinking about paying the fees. You'll be thinking about all of the complex demands of the deliverables that you have to provide, which, you know, if you just go onto any of these festival websites, I mean, you need the DCP, you need you need reams of material, you need your press kit. I mean, you need to have everything ready, you know, way before you make the application. And then one thing about them is that because they're about premieres and premiering films, because they have so many options, if you're, let's say, a filmmaker starting out, I'm talking about feature films here more than shorts, I mean, that premiere of your film is incredibly important. And often a filmmaker will make this horrific mistake, which is that unbeknownst to them, you know, the film was just in some smaller festival and now they get into Sundance or Cannes, and it may be a problem because they want the premiere of the film.
They insist on premieres, most of the top tier ones.
So that would be something that's difficult because you have to wait a long time to hear back. And then, you know, it would be great if you're in the position of juggling, but generally, often I find people wait and then they don't get in, then they've lost the other one. And you really only have about a year. You know, after you finish your film, the cycle is like a year, you know, because you'll see when you apply that, you know, they'll ask you what year was your film completed. So it's kind of a big year right after you finish that you want to pack everything in, and then it kind of goes on. I mean, there are people who spend a couple of years. If you have a film that really does the festival circuit, you could spend a couple of years ideally going around the world with your film, you know, get invited to a lot of different festivals, or you travel there on your own. They don't necessarily always pay for you. But in terms of answering your question, I mean, it's you have to think through that strategy about these top festivals, because one thing you should consider is my film. This has nothing to do with. I mean, you have to get some feedback about whether it's really worth spending the money if you're on a tight budget to apply. Because one of my clients right now, you know, applied to Sundance with a 3-hour film. And it's just, you know, not going to work. I mean,
there's also certain genres that are not terribly festival friendly. Like, for example, action. I know when I made a romantic comedy, it wasn't that in great demand it wasn't edgy enough to be in great demand, unfortunately. Though it did go much.
A Filipino film of, I think, 8 hours just won a major prize in Berlin. Lav Diaz is the director.
He's a great director.
So it's not that a 3-hour film would necessarily you would be excluded, but he's very well known. You know, he's kind of a festival darling, and he has a name. And there are filmmakers like that. But for this filmmaker I'm working with, you know, once you've applied to Sundance and they've rejected you, you can't go back and go, well, now I've cut it down to 90 minutes. I mean, you've used up your, you know, and the filmmaker is from a country where not many people apply to festivals. So it's not, you know, it doesn't really have a culture of applying to festivals. And that's one thing to really consider about the top 10 festivals. Like, is my film, you know, I'd love it to be there, but is it really, like, look at what's programmed there and, you know, get some feedback from, not from people who worked on the film, but from, you know, outsiders, and say, is it worth spending that money?
I want to add to that advice. I think in making a film happen and also in getting a film distributed, it's all about assembling a team.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who are available as executive producers who have been to the circus before. They have done it before. They know the heads of festivals. They know the heads of distribution companies. They know producer reps / sales agents. So getting someone like that involved is very, very important if you think your film has a chance to get into the top 20 film festivals. Also, I think it's important to, if you think you really have a chance, to involve a publicist.
Yes.
My last film, M, which we were very fortunate, won the Grand Jury Prize at Seattle. We had a wonderful publicist, and I didn't know all the heads of film festivals. Who does? But some people do, and this guy did, and he reached out,
Yeah.
But I also think if you don't get into the top 20 or top tier festivals, these festivals are wonderful jumping grounds, because what are you trying to do after all? What you're trying to do is build an audience. It's not what does it matter if you have distribution and they don't, and they have so many films that don't spend any time on yours. It's about building an audience, and as filmmakers and creative professionals, we are now compelled to help build an audience. We have to do that. We have to. How do we get the numbers? And festivals like yours, attract people, and you collect wreaths. You collect wreaths, and the more wreaths, the more impressive it is, the more of a chance you'll get people to watch it. Are you that being said, are you attracting distributors or sales agents to your festivals nowadays?
Yes.
And do you actively try to attract them?
Yeah, we worked with them. So we invite them prior to the festival. We have meetings in order for them to know who is in the lineup, what type of film, so they know where to go. They just don't wait, because a month before the festival, the lineup goes public. So we have relations with the distributors, with producers, and that's what we've been trying to nurture for the past 3 years. And we meet them at Cannes every year. We go to the Cannes Film Festival. So again, those big film festivals, those top-tier film festivals around the world, Berlin, Cannes, Toronto, are film festivals that heads of film festival go to also. So if you're a filmmaker, you can also travel with a film or not, and network over there.
And I'll be talking about it. One of the greatest benefits of a film festival is networking, is meeting people you can collaborate with, you can team up with, you can assemble that team with, and learning about and learning also about how they're marketing and distributing their film, and can that apply to you?
And I want to say one thing about distribution, because every single filmmaker, when they submit, that's also what they want, because they're emerging filmmakers. Again, it's their first or second film, and the goal, the ambition for it is really to have the film distributed. Now, there's many different ways of distributing your films out there. So there's digital. You don't have to necessarily do a theatrical premiere. So so again, these distributors, whether they're big distributors or online distributors, they come to the festivals and they do their own market. So we're becoming a small market. In
Sarah, what advice would you have for beginning filmmakers getting into your festival?
Well, first, I would advise them to have a plan. What is your plan for your film? And once they understand which direction that they want to go, then they can start identifying festivals. So if it's a festival like mine, we launched a call for submission several months in advance. They can submit their film, and of course, the jury would make the selection. And like you said earlier, it's a good opportunity for them to have an audience that will look at their work, plus an opportunity to network.
Great.
Could I just say something?
Sure.
About, I just love what you were saying, Ingrid, because I've just been in Asia, where I've been living for about 8 years, and last week I was there doing a masterclass on co-productions, and we were talking a lot about distribution, and I think this is something that's really going to affect the kind of thing you're talking about, Ingrid, and with both of your festivals, because now Netflix is sort of, the Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, etc. This is very different from a model of theatrical filmmaking that is one I'm very familiar with, having worked on studio films and indie films and in Hollywood and New York and all over the world. Because now I kind of see, hearing what you're saying, if I were publicizing a film or working with a filmmaker or even, talking to you filmmakers, if you're not, it's not going to be so necessary to be in those top festivals. It's great if you are, but look, very few people are. And most of those films have they're going to get theatrical distribution anyway. But many films that are in Sundance never get distribution. In fact, most of them. So that's something to bear in mind. And I think that if you're in the sort of festivals that you're both talking about, and you're in many of these festivals, and you're doing the kind of networking you're talking about, which is what they're all about, that means something, I think, to these online distributors, because you can talk about what happened. I mean, maybe you were in one of these festivals and it was packed out, and you had to, wow, we had to have another screening, and that wasn't even enough. We had to have another one, and then we got the actor in, and you can actually sell. You're using festivals which, up until these massive changes in distribution, were really much more, separate into A, B, and C lists.
I feel like there's like a paradigm shift almost every 3 months in the technology of distribution.
Definitely.
I think it's also important for filmmakers to be open to other media.
Yes.
Right now, Berlin and Toronto have a TV series day, or they're open to distributing TV series.
And the biggest...
I have a question for you. What percentage of the budget as a producer should you keep for marketing and film festivals should no one pick you up?
Well, this is the thing. Most budgets don't, write that in. Actually, the Producers Guild has a new credit. It's not that new now. It's a few years, 5 or 7 years. They have a credit called Transmedia Producer, which is the person who would do all of that. But actually, you should begin with that. Mostly when I talk to filmmakers, it's like, it's so hard to make the film. Oh my God, I've finished it, Now, like, what am I going to do? But actually, it's more along the model of what you see in crowdfunding. I was just at the Athena Festival, and they had a great panel on crowdfunding, because it's really more about like finding your audience. If you find that audience, like I know someone who's just finished a film in that model, and they already have the 16,000 audience who's going to buy the DVD or the streaming film. So you really have to put it in your budget, because it's very hard to get it when everyone is frankly kind of fried, and you put all that effort into making it. But it's kind of like we're, as filmmakers, we get very swept up, and it's an art as well as a business, and the art has to really work. But if you think about, in the business of film, we talk about film as a product. And if you think about developing a product, like, you'd never develop this table and then just hope you could sell it. You do a lot of R&D to see, like, how is this going to be different? How who is going to buy it? So I think in terms of percentage of a budget, I don't know. It's very hard. I found it very hard to say to independent filmmakers, particularly, just put aside 10 grand. It's like, oh no, it's too much. But you can spend a couple of grand on applying for festivals easily. It's
very, very expensive. And I'm gonna bring that question to you. Do you ever waive fees for people who are just strapped? They're broke. They've made their film. They have no money left.
Never.
Zero, nada.
But that's everyone.
Do you ever? That's a high percentage.
They wouldn't have any fees.
A high
they
percentage.
Wouldn't have a festival.
Do you ever waive fees or discount fees?
I take it case by case basis,
Yeah,
and normally what happens is I'm being live streamed. Okay, so here it goes. If the filmmaker gives or sends a strong case that they really, really cannot afford the fees, then I'll go ahead and make the decision to waive it. But that's not a lot of times, because like she said,
Yeah, we usually don't. So, we as Tara just said, we have to run the festivals, and it's not much of.
Well, you don't charge that much. It's not like.
It's 50 to 100. Yeah. So for first timers, it could be a lot. So we receive a lot of emails on a daily basis. So can you waive the fees?
Yeah.
And it's difficult for us to say no, but they have to understand that we're also running this for them. So to make sure it's run at a professional level, we have to have these fees. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's,
Okay,
and
one other
without a
question.
box
Is it okay for filmmakers to call you after they've applied?
No.
To like lobby you or email you? Is that okay to reach
For-
out to you or programmers?
for me it's okay. Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. I mean, actually, a lot of filmmakers. Sometimes I go on Instagram and they don't know it's me, and I talk to them, and sometimes they want to ask questions, and there's so many ways out there now to be in direct contact with the programmers or anybody behind the festival through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And so you have to be also really careful about what you're asking and how you're asking things to the team. But I would say, yeah, you can lobby. I think, I mean, in order for filmmakers that are, I'm talking about really emerging filmmakers, you have to go out there and do as much as possible in a very nicely way, in a very diplomatic way. But you have to make sure that they remember you.
Do any of you have any other advice or tips for beginning filmmakers to get their film into your festival?
Well, one thing do not do. This is 101. We had a glitch in the system, and it rejected every filmmaker. Woo! That was a 5-alarm fire. But anyway, so one filmmaker responded with a very ugly email. And, I was really taken aback by that. I said, okay, I know we are in New York, and I understand some of the attitude, but this is like to the 10th power.
yeah.
So don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
It's a very small, close-knit world, and that's just sheer stupidity. I'm sorry, Gabrielle?
I was just going. I was going to echo that by saying be nice, because I'm also a juror on lots of festivals. So I was going to say something about that because somebody sued Sundance a couple of years ago, saying it was impossible. They really resented paying $75 because they didn't. Given that it was over 9,000 films, how is it physically possible? And I know from working in the lab in Sundance that they had like their own zip code at one point. Or I mean, I went into a room and it was like the U.S. mail bags were in sort of giant crates. So somebody sued Sundance saying that no one could possibly have seen the films, and that's a process that maybe we'll talk a little bit about. But I want to say you're open to filmmakers. You don't really want people calling, but whatever you do, be nice, because it is a very small world, and often I've seen films and it wasn't right for the festival that I was working for, but I've then recommended to other festivals. But you really remember people who are rude. I mean, you really remember them. And, once your film is mailed off or, your application is submitted, I mean, that's it. People are going to be dealing with it and you can't do anything. And if they remember you negatively, not good.
I think an important part of creative career success is how you deal with rejections. If you're a creative professional, if you're an actor, director, writer, producer, even crew, you're going to deal with hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of rejections. How will you deal with it? How will you get your skin thick enough to deal with these rejections? And you can't take it personally. I know. With it's funny. My last film got a lot of awards, but it had no huge names. Fantastic actors, fantastic director Tony Barbieri. I produced it with one of the top composers in the world, Harry Gregson Williams. It's called MEM, and we had no names. And I found out later that the number of slots that Cannes has or Sundance has for films with no names is very, very small.
Yeah, there's not.
2 or 3, not a lot. I want to move this conversation to another topic, and that is how incredible. I really feel that another important ingredient of success is, for anyone, is contact accumulation. That is accumulating hundreds and hundreds of contacts of professional creative professionals, people in the business, in the art, And there is no better way that I can think of doing this than attending a festival. Can you speak to that, at the benefits of networking at a film festival?
Yeah. So at the Chelsea Film Festival, we put together a program specifically designed for filmmakers that are selected. So again, we're bringing back to the budget. It's really important if you're going to submit to a film festival in New York and you're not in this country, or you're in a different state, then you want to come to the film festival and meet people and come to the workshops and because they're events only for you and for the people that we specifically invite. So It is really important for the filmmakers to attend them, that this is the way for them to network. And the other element to it is not only to network with the people that we invite, but the people that are selected within those lineup, because they could do co-production. I mean, they're all from, last year we had almost 70 films from 24 different countries, and people are just flew in from everywhere. And I always tell them, just talk to this fellow filmmaker, or the actor is there. And a lot of the films that we presented last year had actually stars in the film. So even though it was their first or second film, but they had stars coming from Turkey. And so it's really a way to network. This is the idea of a film festival.
And Tara, why is networking important for one's career success?
I have a little story. I got this story after one of our festivals that we executed one year. A young lady came actually as an aspiring actress, and Robert Townsend that did a panel on the art of independent filmmaking. He utilized his film Hollywood Shuffle as the model, and he was talking about how he financed it with his credit cards in the commercial, a Pepsi commercial that he did. And that year, we also honored Regina King and a few other people. And this young lady, she was so inspired by Mr. Robert Townsend that the last day that we had our award ceremony honoring some of these filmmakers, and as well as Regina King, she actually went up to her, and Ms. King felt comfortable enough to give her cell phone number. They stayed in contact. This woman went from an inspiring actress to an inspiring filmmaker. Regina got on board and helped her make her first film that starred Jada Pinkett Smith. So it is, I can't even express, and I agree with my new friend here, Ingrid, that the networking is incredible. You never know who you can meet and how it can move your career forward.
Can I say something? Because it's so unfair that, the taxes that people pay in Europe particularly, but, if you're a European filmmaker, your country will pay for you to go to festivals. In America, even when we had the NEA, I mean, it's still around, but, you're not going to get that kind of support. But I would encourage, I'm all for not giving up. And so, let's say you get into a festival and you can't go. I mean, there are probably certainly European people from other places that can't get to the States.
And sometimes we do help. We do find sponsors.
So if you're American, given that
the top tier festivals pay for the producer and director, don't they usually pay for them?
No, only only very few of them.
Yeah.
No.
Really?
Yeah, they don't. But actually, the flip side of that is if you get into a festival. I remember a filmmaker I knew got into the Palm Springs Festival. He lived in LA. I said, well, you're going, right? Well, I don't know. I said, well, you have to go for all the reasons we're talking about here. I said, well, I just don't have any money. I said, call them up. Well, I don't know, call them up. So he called them up and, they gave him a room so he could bum a ride there, hitch a ride and get there. Obviously, it was very nearby. But if you get into a festival, because of what you said, Ingrid, it's so crucial to be there. Yeah. I would do anything to get there. I mean, that includes, just brainstorming, like who would sponsor me? Could I do some crowdfunding to just get there, get a ticket on, the cheapest possible ticket? go on filmmaking boards to try and stay with people. I mean, if you made a film, you've got to be really determined and inventive. And here's one thing a filmmaker I know did. This was a kind of suggestion I made, like, well, you could always do this. I didn't really think they would do it, but they did. And this is someone who got into the London Film Festival and couldn't go, who just didn't have the money. And I said, you know what, go on this site called Shooting People. It's a British site, of filmmakers. It's very user-friendly. It's like a great group of people. I mean, this person could not go. They tried everything. They could go. And I said, get someone to go for you. And he actually found this woman who said, I'll go for you. Wow. She looked at the film. She went. She was like a wonderful personality. She probably did a better job than him. She went, she gathered all the cards, and people were laughing. Nice. She was like, they said, oh, congratulations, you're the filmmaker. And she says, no, I'm not. But he has no money, and I'm the one, It was a riot, and it was very successful. Wow. And so do not give up. Mm-hmm. Do not give up if you cannot go yourself.
Just want to add to that. It's important. Filmmakers are obsessed with meeting financiers or investors, but actually the reality is in this day and age, it's really incumbent upon you to meet a variety of professions. Yes. So film festival heads, entertainment journalists and bloggers, union heads, heads of governmental subsidies. It's really, and obviously key crew, bigger producers who can help you guide you, or executive producers who can help guide your next project. So it's really important to meet a variety. Other directors who maybe you think some directors don't want to meet any other directors. That's a crazy attitude. You can trade you can trade shop secrets. You can talk to each other. Maybe an investor's not right for their film next time. That's right for your film. Right. Yeah. So it's about accumulating contacts. And when we talk about networking, we're not talking about superficial chit chat. We're just talking about meeting the number of people you need to meet to have make a creative living. That's what we're talking about.
Look at how you both started your festivals. It was not you found that the dream found you. And I would never have become a filmmaker if I weren't living in New York City in what has become NoHo, but wasn't then, in the 70s. And my landlord torched the building that I and my other friends were living in. And we were burned out of the building. And the job I had paid like $200 a week. And a friend said to me, you should work in the movie business because they make more money. You could read scripts. I said, well, I've never read a script. And then I read one. I was like, this is so easy. There's so much white paper. And that's how I got into the film business. So you just don't know, to speak to what you're saying, you don't know, you're not really, it doesn't really happen very often that you just meet someone who's going to write that big check. It's more piecing together.
My first film, Passionata.
Yeah.
I always talk about it was the result, literally, of about 500 meetings in New York, L.A., Boston, London, Paris, Berlin, Istanbul, San Francisco. So I'm not saying you have to have 500 meetings, but it probably it requires a lot more contacts than you think it does. And to get started, to get a head start in accumulating those contacts, in meeting people, festivals cannot be beat. Cannot be beat. Wanted to talk about itinerizing. How do you when you go to a top tier festival? How do you itinerize? How do you make sure you're fitting in all the people you want to meet? How do you organize that?
Well, I want to give a tip here. I want to remember to give this tip because I love how this can work, and I want to share it with you. Cannes is like a wonderful dream. I mean, it's sort of it's not the first film festival ever in the world. That was Venice. But, it's so extraordinary. It's such an incredible, amazing place to be. Everybody is there, and it's just thrilling and exciting, and it's really expensive. And there are a lot of, it's expensive to get a badge and so forth. So you probably...
But if you're a filmmaker, if you've made films before you have credits, they give you a discounted filmmaker's badge.
Yes, they will. But it's still expensive. So, a good thing to do is apply to the Short Film Corner, which costs about $125. The short film corner is actually something Cannes came up with. It's a great idea because, I mean, thousands of people go, and they have a special section, and it's very well organized. So if you're short film, it's short films. If it gets in, it will have a barcode that, they will read the barcode whenever anyone comes in to watch your film. They're in a big database. It's in a big book. And the badge that you get from getting into the short film corner will get you into all the, it won't get you into every screening, but it will get you into the market, and it will get you, and they have a great party. The only thing is sometimes people apply to that, and when they get in, they send out a great email saying, I just got into Cannes, and what am I going to wear on the red carpet? And then, you have to sort of point out, no, you're not in the Cannes Film Festival. You're in the short film corner, which is a different thing, but a great thing, because then you're there in this premier, amazing festival with a lot of access, go to a great party, and really, so how do you plan that? Well, you should start planning a long time ahead. It's hard if you just show up somewhere and you don't know. You have to, usually with a festival, with Cannes definitely, you can go beforehand and see who's there and, kind of make your notes about who you want to meet. Or once you get there and you get the book, all these top festivals will have a big, in the case of Cannes, it's like this, with everyone who's there and their phone number and so forth. But, a lot of these major people have already made all their meetings. So it's set up way beforehand.
When I go to Cannes, I know this sounds crazy. Of course, I have a good time and I see friends and stuff, but it's hard work.
Yeah, it's very
hard.
And
when I go to Cannes, I have like 10 meetings a day, and I set up those meetings, I itinerize those meetings 2 or 3 weeks before. And I send out a lot of emails to people, who will be helpful in different ways. When a lot of filmmakers or producers that go to Cannes, they're coming in for different agendas. It's not the same agenda. Maybe coming to finance the next film, distribute the previous one. What they may be doing for TV, whatever. But itinerizing is an important part of any film festival, and you want to see through social media. I find LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter is really helpful in this way. Who else is coming through your social media?
The thing is about being at a festival, though, is what people want is what they celebrate. Your film is being celebrated, but really, what the people that you meet and what you should be thinking about is what you're doing next. So ideally, like if I'm working with someone who's going with a short film, you would really want that filmmaker to have the feature script under their arm, because everyone's just going to go, great, but they're not going to spend much time. They're going to go, what are you doing next?
Well, the most important advice is to meet these people and bond with them as people before you talk about what you're going to pitch or what kind of business. We're going to open this up to the audience, this large audience here. Jen, anybody have any questions about anything we're talking about? Yes.
Hello. We good? Okay. Thank you for holding this. It's amazing. I am a lover of science fiction films. When I think about female directors, I think about female writers. Octavia Butler being one of them. Okay. So as far as women diving into the science fiction world, what is your take on that? And do you see science fiction films at your film festivals? That's my question. From women, directed by women.
That's a very excellent question. Almost ate the mic. We had several years ago, we had a screenplay competition, and I was floored at one of the scripts that actually was very futuristic, and it actually won our screenplay competition. I think that it is a wonderful avenue, and we certainly try to encourage it as much as possible. And as a matter of fact, because of that screenplay that we came across, I am really considering going forward to launching another screen competition. Won't be for this film festival, but going forward. So yeah, that's a very good point that you brought out.
one of the newest things that's happening at film festivals in the last couple of years is a transmedia, and in the last year, the virtual reality sections. They're not always even films. What is the festival way of handling the virtual reality transmedia component? There's one at South by Southwest this year. TFF is doing that. New York Film Festival has Convergence.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We're for now concentrating on content that are either short film, feature films, or fictions or documentary pieces. But we're, of course, thinking about it for the future. So, yeah, that would be my answer.
The web is length agnostic. So what's going to happen in the future is that these film festivals are going to open themselves more and more to TV, shorts, web series. It's going to open. It's not going to be so strict. If theatrical distribution is not so much part of the equation, they're going to have to be more flexible. So they may be called film festivals in names, but I think they'll be much more open to different lengths and forms of content.
Yes, it's just like film schools. You know, when George Lucas, I used to teach at USC, and when George Lucas gave them $175 million, it was with the stipulation that the name be changed. Because when you think about it, it doesn't make any sense. It's like calling a school a training after hardware. I mean, it's not film. You know, actually in film, I've just been teaching at NYU in Singapore, and, you know, most film schools don't teach film. I mean, we can't get the labs to process the film, and people are shooting on digital and so forth. But I just wanted to say that you will see an explosion of what in Sundance is called new frontiers. I mean, in these top festivals, you'll see, you know, a major programming burst around VR and transmedia, because it's really the cutting edge of storytelling.
Thank you. Next question.
Sure. How for the two program festivals, how many of your how big is your program, and how much of it is curated, and how much of it actually comes from true submissions?
Okay. So nothing is
Why don't you repeat the question so people can hear it?
okay. So the question was how much is curated and how much is through submissions that we put together. So we have the amazing. We're very lucky to have a lot of submissions coming through without a box. So we do not have to curate the lineup. So yes, it's through submissions. Yeah.
We have through submissions. A lot of the screenings, a large portion of that comes through submissions. But this particular year, we have a special program. The United Nations have a women's organization called CSW, and they are doing their women's program. So we're going to actually be a part of that. Our second day, we're calling it the International Day. So we're going to be featuring several countries. Now that particular program will be curated. So it's just special. It depends upon what we're doing for the year, and if there's special programming, that will determine if we curate it or not.
Yeah, and I want to mention that we're a competition. It's a competition, so we want to make sure that it's clear, you know, that yeah.
And next question.
Hi, thank you all for knowledge you kicked. It's opened up my mind on quite a bit. I just wanted to ask a question in regards of where on the festival circuit would there be like room for shorts to be able to, because I know we focused a lot on features, so just talk a bit about that.
I really appreciate that question, and I just want to add that, you know, so many people are waiting for that pie in the sky feature with big names and the incredible red carpet, but that's great. That's a great goal. But rather you make shorts now and have a short. I just had a very pleasant experience with a short called Homophonia. It was in the Palm Springs Short Fest and 45 other short fests. I had made 5 features, but I enjoyed it immensely. The networking benefits were incredible, and it was a lot of fun. You know, if you have a short in you, make the short. And that's an amazing calling card then for the feature.
There are many more festivals for shorts because it's much harder to make a feature. So you'll have a huge choice, you know, for short films. Huge.
And we accept shorts as well.
Yeah.
You know, just like I stated earlier, as long as there's a woman who is above the line, either a producer or director or writer, we accept shorts.
Yeah, and we do too. We do too, actually. Half of the lineup is short films. Yeah. So.
It's a great opportunity as a web series. Web series.
Yes.
Great
Yeah,
opportunity.
Yeah.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, you guys talked about formulating a team like through networking on festivals and that type of thing, but what I'm finding is I'm having trouble like bringing that team together before even creating the thing. You know, I hit a standstill because I just don't have the amount of people that I can find motivated enough and willing to help me with my vision like I might want to help somebody else with theirs. And so my question...
There you go. Story forward.
You just answered your own question.
I was going to be like, how do I find that? But I guess
got
right
it.
here. This is it.
Yeah, a place like here is a place of network.
Social media
So-
is great for it. Meetups, social
Yeah.
media.
Stage
Yeah.
32.
What
is good,
you know, it
Stage
depends
32.
also about your film. What niche does it appeal to? What is it branded? I mean, is it about a specific some incident or some country or something? You know, what would attract other people? What do they have in common?
And also, realistically, how many people do you need? Maybe you need just to be 2, you know, to start your film. You don't need to be, you know.
The point is to make it happen.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
make it happen. Any way you
make it
can, make it
happen.
happen. Any other questions?
Hi, how's it going? Oh, I don't want to put this too close to my face. Hi. So I have a quick question. Never really made any, like, film really per se. What's the is like each kind of sorry, I can't get the words out, but does each competition have its own defining term for a short film and feature film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're separated. They usually have separate jurors, separate judges, and depending on the festival, there may be certain themes that
Or
will
length.
appeal better to one festival over another. So you have to do the research and figure out what film,
Yeah.
what festivals are right for your specific film, whether it's a feature or a short film. You want to add to that, Ingrid?
Absolutely. Just want to talk about how we program the films. So we have a film committee that selects the films prior to the actual competition. So there are 2 different juries. There's a film committee, about 5 to 10 people. It varies every year, that select the films, and then once it's entered, once we have the lineup, then we have a different group of people that chooses who is going to win what. And there are 2 different categories. One is being for feature films, and it's sponsored by Panavision. The last year was $10,000 for the feature film. And the second category is for short films, and that's $5,000, sponsored by Panavision. So yeah, we that's how it's run. Yeah, but again, as Jim said, you have to decide which film festival is good for you, for your film. Yeah.
All right, we want to thank all of you for coming. We want to thank Jen Begeal and StoryForward. And we want to thank these wonderful, amazing guests, Ingrid Jean-Baptiste of Chelsea Film Festival, Gabrielle Kelly, and Tara Renee and her wonderful film festival.
Thank you, Adorama.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adorama.
Yep. Thank you, everyone,
you.
for coming. And please be sure to check us out online at StoryForward.NYC and follow us on Twitter at StoryForward NYC. Thank you again, and stay dry out there.
Yeah.